remember, he did a presentation for us about 2 years ago, Norman Smith from Massachusetts, the guy with the impenetrable Boston accent. And Norman is a snowy owl researcher and a premier educator as well. So, but I was out once with him trapping snowy owls, and he'd get them in a hoop trap, and he'd go and get them, and you would think a snowy owl was going to tear you to pieces. He would pick them up, he'd put them under his arm, and he'd walk away. And the bird wouldn't struggle, wouldn't fight at all. And I don't know why, possibly because it has no predators. But, and it's just not used to that kind of, somebody caught me and I'm not dead. I really don't know, but it was the funniest thing in the world. He actually let his daughter take one of the captive birds into school for show and tell. And she brings it in under her arm, and the teacher says, "Oh, a stuffed owl." And she puts it on the desk and says, "No, it's not stuffed." So, but, so welcome everybody. People are going to be kicking in as we go along, I'm sure. Hi, Renee. Hi, Jean. And so we have some sterling naturalists in attendance tonight. And one thing I want to tell everybody right off the bat is we are recording. If you don't want your face to be shown on the library's YouTube channel, you should turn off your video. Personally, I don't care anymore. I used to. These days, what's the point? So tonight we have 3 presenters from the Great Salt Lake Audubon. And I want to thank Linda Johnson for reaching out to Leah at the library, who got a hold of me and said, "You got to do this program." I said, "Yes, I will do this program." And I'm going to introduce Linda, and very briefly, and she's going to introduce the presenters and tell us a little bit about herself and the programs of Great Salt Lake Audubon, our giant neighbor to the south, which, by the way, has a fabulous website and very, very deep. So Linda, I know that you used to live in Jackson. We'll start with that.
Well, I did for a brief time. Thanks, Bernie. But the 3 of us have been doing this bird window collision program now for several months. And Jean LeBaire is actually going to start us off. And Jean is a retired educator and librarian, and serves on the Great Salt Lake Audubon Board and participates in the in Tracy Aviary's breeding bird surveys and Salt Lake Avian collision surveys that Cooper's going to talk about later. And if Jean wants to say anything else about herself, I'll let her do that. And I am a retired nurse and also on the Great Salt Lake Audubon Board. And I do some of the publicity and outreach work. Also do the breeding bird and avian collision surveys. And then Cooper is the director of conservation at the Tracy Aviary. So if either Jean or Cooper wants to say any more about their background, that would be great to add. But Jean's going to start us off. So go ahead, Jean.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and visiting with us this evening. I am going to go ahead and share my screen and start our PowerPoint presentation. And I will ask Linda to tell me that she can see it. Oh. Linda, I'm not sure what happened. Let me try it again.
There it is.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to talk about saving birds one window at a time. And, Linda introduced me, so, I'm pleased to be here to talk with you about this. I want to give credit to the work of the Bird Window Collision Working Group from Pennsylvania, who actually put this presentation originally together. We have made modifications to it, but we just want to acknowledge that they did a lot of the legwork that got us going on this project. So the goal of the talk is to introduce you to the issue of bird window collisions, and hopefully to impress upon you how widespread and disastrous it is and just how avoidable it can be. So we're going to talk to you about why birds matter, the fact that birds can't see windows, and as a result, they collide with the windows. And as a result of that, they're injured or die, but that this is something that is preventable. And there are things that you can do to make your windows visible, or fix your windows to make them visible to birds. And then Cooper, who is associated with the Tracy Aviary and is the conservation biologist there, is going to talk about their project, the Salt Lake Avian Collision Survey. And both Linda and I participate in that as well. And then we'll wrap up. So just want to impress upon you that bird window collisions are a big deal, but yet there is a solution. We'll talk about that. So the birds you see on this slide are some of our many neotropic migrants. And with the arrival of spring, they are on their way back through Utah and Wyoming from their southern wintering grounds, and we welcome them. Most people like and enjoy birds, and here are some good reasons why we believe that birds matter. Well, first of all, they contribute to our healthy ecosystem. They are pollinators, like our hummingbirds. They provide pest control, for example, our gulls and flycatchers. They're carrion eaters, so they take care of the unfortunate dead deers and rabbits that are squashed on our roads. So the vultures help us keep that carrion from becoming too smelly. And birds provide seed dispersal. So they eat fruits and they don't digest the seeds, and they poop those out somewhere else, and spread some of the seeds around, the fruits around. So birds are biological barometers and environmental indicators, and essentially their life, that's the canary in a gold mine, or the canary in the mine idea. So if we save birds, then we can save the world. Birds mark the passage of time. And as we said, the birds are now coming back from spending the winter further south. They provide a sense of place and connection to the wild, and they bring us hope, beauty, music, and wonder. So birds delight and enrich our lives. Their songs are just so cheerful. So we invite birds into our backyards, and we provide feeders, which we were talking about before the presentation. We plant foods in our yard for the birds and cover, and we provide water features. So this invitation benefits the birds and us, and easily seeing birds from our back porch is just, joyful. But the fact is that birds are dying because they cannot see windows. And I want you to notice the different kinds of windows at the bottom of this slide that I'm showing you. So on the left, we have a clear glass walkway. And if birds are flying in this area, they don't see that there's glass there, but they do see that there's sky on the other side, and they go for it. And then same with this window that is to the right. You see that you have reflective and then see-through glass in this window, as well as in the window to its right. So these windows are not, the birds really don't see that there's a barrier there. And then the window on the right-hand side is sort of this mirror reflective glass that's out there. And again, birds just see that as habitat. So any kind of glass structure that allows birds to see habitat through it can be lethal. And it includes glass walls and noise barriers and bus shelters and glass artwork and those kinds of things. So birds do not see glass and cannot recognize the concept that buildings hold glass. Without something to give birds a clue not to fly to it, you can see why the reflective habitat can deceive birds. And it should also be noted that some windows that appear reflective under one set of light conditions may appear transparent under other light conditions. And Linda will talk about that a little bit later. So the number of windows out there is beyond calculation. Every home, office complex, college campus, and other type of buildings all have windows, and they all have the potential to kill birds. So the person you see here in this picture is Dr. Daniel Clem. He has spent over 40 years studying bird window collisions. He did the original research and began studying this problem in 1974. And he was pretty much the lone wolf out there when he started on this. And in his doctoral dissertation, he estimated way back then that between 100 million and 1 billion birds collide with glass annually in the United States alone. And then in 2014, using 35 years of additional data and 23 studies, so doing a meta-analysis of sorts, and the latest in statistical methods, Scott Loss and his colleagues published a research paper that estimated between 365 million and 988 million birds are killed annually in the United States. So if you think about the median number of birds, dead birds, 599 million, that's almost 2 birds for every citizen in the United States. It's a lot of birds. After habitat destruction and cats, bird window collisions are the greatest human cause of bird mortality worldwide. And all the other types of human caused mortality together don't come close to the amount of death caused by glass, as this chart shows. And then birds can fly through fairly tight places, and almost no window is too small to kill. There is no season, time of day, or weather condition during which birds elude glass. So research has shown it's the day-to-day collisions that occur year-round at residential and low-rise commercial buildings that account for the majority of bird window collisions. The best predictor of the number of bird window strikes is the availability of food, water, and vegetation. Birds congregate in large numbers at feeders, and so putting them closer to your windows can help. When danger threatens, like if a Cooper hawk comes flying through on the hunt for little birds, birds will flee in a panic, and they oftentimes, as a result of that, collide with windows. So birds have incredibly flexible necks, and hundreds of x-rays have shown that they do not break their necks when they collide with glass, as we would assume, but rather that they get concussions and internal injuries. And so you may see a bird that hits a window, it will get up, it'll be stunned, it will get up, it might fly away. But they estimate that probably many of these birds die, a day or so later as the results of their internal injuries. So have you had bird window strikes at your home, and what did you do? We should just mention that 290 North American species of birds have been documented as striking windows. So any species that occurs near unprotected glass will probably eventually make it onto this list.
Okay, thanks, Jean. As Jean just said, most window collisions occur at homes and low-rise buildings. And there are a lot of those around, whether it be in Salt Lake or in Jackson Hole. And we're going to talk about ways now that you can make your windows a little bit more bird friendly, hopefully. There are really 2 ways that you can do that. either provide a physical barrier, such as screens, which you can see down in the lower right-hand corner. You can also have taut netting, but that can be kind of tricky and has to be applied to the home, which makes it a little bit more difficult and less inviting, I would say. Or you can make the windows more visible to birds from at least 10 feet away. And that the picture above the man with the screens there shows the decals on the window that can be used also to prevent that. The rule basically is that anything that you place on your windows should be no more than 2 inches apart horizontally or 4 inches apart vertically. More and more, they're starting to talk about 2 by 2, which you could see in the dots up here. Those appear to be 2 by 2 rather than 2 by 4. But that's not the rule yet. So far, it's still 2 by 4. But you can see in this photo on the left that clever little barn swallow is getting himself through a very narrow space, and he is traveling at about 30 miles an hour. So that's, and there could be glass there. If there were glass there, we'd have a bird window collision. So what do you do about that? And where do you place these things on your window? Decals or stickers, and obviously screens as well, should be placed on the outside of the window. Windows today are pretty much double pane, so they have 4 surfaces. And as you can see here up the green, that surface 1, that's the exterior of the window. And that is the most effective place to put decals or stickers. Of course, that's not always possible. I mean, some people, myself included, I have a window, a transom window in my bedroom that I would need a 20-foot ladder outside to put something on, and I'm not capable of doing that, but I am capable of putting something on the inside. And it's better to put something on the inside than to do nothing at all. And if you're going to do that, the best thing to do is to test different things to see what works best. You can do this with a sticky note. Take some sticky notes, put them on the inside of your window, but then you need to go outside at different times during the day and look and see if you can see those sticky notes or whatever you choose to put up there as a sample. If you can see them, chances are the birds can see them. The reason for doing it at different times of the day is because you can see in the picture here at the bottom left, a bird would probably see that and go, that's not where I want to go. But then you go out at a different time of day on the right, and what do you see? You see the bird's environment. So that's why it's important to check these things if they're on the inside a few times during the day. There are a lot of products available for your windows, and we strongly encourage everyone to follow the recommendations of the American Bird Conservancy. We've got their website on here in a couple of different places, and they are the folks who have tested all of these products and assigned a threat level to them, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they've tested these products and found them to be bird friendly or more bird friendly than some other products that are out there. So we'll go through and look at some of these options here. The first one is the Ecopium Bird Savers. And this is probably the least expensive and easiest to make. All you need is 1/8 inch paracord and something to mount that to that can then be mounted either to the outside of your house or to the window frame. You don't have to, you just mount it at the top. It hangs loose and kind of sways in the breeze. We do know of people who are using this, and they say that it has been very effective. And they, after a while, don't even really notice that it's on the window. So it really doesn't block your view that much, and they tend to gently sway in the wind. But some of the, excuse me, some of the other applications that you'll see will look very similar to this. So this is just one first option. The next is the bird tape, which is usually easy to install, assuming it comes off the roll as it's intended to. It's also very affordable and highly effective. Personally, if it were my home, now I have been in places, actually, the Tracy Aviary has a Jordan River Nature Center, and on their sliding glass doors, they have both that Acopian curtain that we both saw, and we have, excuse me, and they also have the bird tape. And so that's a nice way to see what these things actually look like in practice. And I've been in that building, and honestly, when I'm in there, I don't really even notice either one of them that much. This over on the left with all the lines, I probably would notice. The dots, I don't think would bother me at all. And the other advantage of the bird tape is that it lasts for about 4 years or even longer, which is really good. The next product is Kaleidoscape, and I think many of us are probably familiar with this. It is the material that you can see on buses or vehicles that covers the window and looks like it's blocking the window, but that's what you see from the outside. When you're on the inside, it looks clear. So it is not obstructing your view at all. It's installed on the exterior of the surface and hung like wallpaper, and it comes in several designs. You can see these, the black birds up here. I've seen many windows with like a couple of these on, and that certainly is not meeting the 2x4 rule. And I'm not sure I would want all these birds all over my window. I think I would opt for something less intrusive. This is the Kaleidoscape tape. And then over here is the custom design, the one with the daisies. I'm not sure that putting something on your window that might look like their habitat would be the best idea. But you certainly could find a type of custom design that you would like and would probably not be that interesting to the birds. The custom design, of course, is the most expensive option. Then we have Glass Pro. Now, this is a relatively new product, and in the picture, you can see that we can see nothing. It looks clear, but the birds see these blue things, which deters them. This is something that would be installed either during new construction, or if you're remodeling and getting new windows, that's a possibility, especially if they're custom windows. Then whoever makes those windows can use whatever type of glass you would want them to use. So that's a newer option. Now, if you're really artsy craftsy, or just want to have fun, or you have kids or grandkids who want to just have fun and do something for the birds, you can use tempera paint, which of course is water soluble and it's non-toxic. And you can see that it does kind of obstruct your view. You wouldn't have to do it quite to this degree, but the main disadvantage is that it would have to be reapplied probably relatively often, because if it rains or snows on the window, it's going to wash off. Then you would have to wash your windows and start over. So it would be a fun thing to do, fun project for kids. Or if you had a small window that you wanted to just try it out with, that would be a good option too. Finally, we have oil-based Sharpie pens, which draw lines on the outside of the window. You can see that here. And it looks very similar to the bird tape or the Acopian curtain. It's cost effective. The only thing about this is that it can be somewhat tricky to apply and remove, because you have to be very careful that whatever you're doing with it, you don't do anything to damage your windows. So if anyone is interested in this type of mitigation, I would encourage you to go to our website and read there are detailed instructions out there, and I would encourage you to read that before you attempt it. And certainly you're welcome to get in touch with us. We could put you in touch with the person who has been using this, also found to be effective, but she could tell you all of the pros and cons of doing this with your window. So just that disclaimer there. Jean mentioned bird feeders. Bird feeders, the closer to the window they are, the better off for the birds, because if they are startled, they're not going to have enough momentum to get injured if they hit the window. Feeders have also been tested at about 30 feet away and found that that's an okay distance for them. They've not been tested at any other distances. So I can't say whether, I mean, if you're going to put bird feeders 100 feet away, you're going to need binoculars to see what's on them. So that wouldn't probably be very practical. But 30 feet is an okay distance. Some people are concerned that if they're close to the window, the birds aren't going to come because they see activity in the house. And I can tell you from experience, my brother has bird feeders like 2 feet away from the kitchen window. And yeah, when you walk in the kitchen or if you make a sudden movement, they may fly off for a moment, but they come right back, and eventually they get used to the activity in the home and it becomes part of their baseline. And then, like I said, unless you make some rapid or strange movement, they're not even going to pay any attention to the fact that you're there. So either put them really close or about 30 feet away for the best effect. For architects and industry, there are 3 types of glass that, or 3 solutions really: fritted glass, etched glass, or UV film. They have, some buildings have tried using angled glass, but that has not been shown to be effective. So we'll look at some of these examples here. The first is the fritted glass, which you can see has this sort of slightly milky appearance, just like almost like you have a little screen on the window. And that's because it's what creates the fritting is the ceramic components that are in there. It's smooth and it's not a bad aesthetic. Big bonus for industry or commercial buildings is that it's very energy saving. And of course, it is visible to birds. The other type of glass is etched glass, which I think we're probably all familiar with. If you've ever seen a decorative door or side light or window that has what appears to be a frosted pattern on it, that is etched glass, which is the pattern is created by using hydrofluoric acid that can be cut into any shape or size, and then the glass is tempered. And this is also visible to birds. Not particularly practical for the home because you're not going to want frosted glass on all your windows. So more of an industrial solution. And finally, the UV film. Currently, there is only one product that's been tested on the market and found to be effective, which is the Glass AviProtect T. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Birds can see it. We don't see it. And I think they're working more and more on the UV films because it's a great solution. We can't see it. Birds can see it. And you don't really know that it's even on your window. So I think that's going to be something up and coming, not only for industry, but also for home use, hopefully in the future. These are the folks that provide these solutions for commercial windows: Glass Pro, Ornolux, Viricon, Window Alert. There's links to all of these on our website if anyone is interested in or knows builders or architects who are interested in this type of product, like I said, we do have links on our website to all of these products. It is good news that industry is taking notice of the demand for bird-friendly products. And there are products constantly in development that birds can see that we can't, which is important because we don't want our views obstructed, but yet we don't want those birds, you know, we don't want that little guy that's over my shoulder to be laying dead on the sidewalk or our patio or whatever. And at the national level, there is more and more call for incorporating bird-friendly building design standards. Any of the part of the LEED standards, there is a section in there that they get points for bird-friendly design, but this is even over and above that. There are a lot of design standards out there. Again, that's all out there on the American Bird Conservancy website. So you have a lot of choices. Depends on what you want to look at and what you can afford. But when you are considering any of these choices, you want to remember the buyer beware, because there are no official standards in the US for bird-friendly glass. However, products with a threat factor of 30 should really reduce collisions by at least 50%, and those are considered bird-friendly. You can look at any of this stuff out on the American Bird Conservancy's website, but anything 30 or below, and of course, the lower the number, the more bird-friendly it's considered. I believe they've actually got a threat factor of 0, which is a concrete wall. I don't think that's going to help your windows much, unless you want to look at a concrete wall. So it's good to do some research. You can find a lot of these products. I don't know if you can buy them locally in Jackson. I know that there are a few places here in Salt Lake that do sell several of these products, but they are definitely out on the internet. But I would encourage you that before you rush to Amazon to find your products, that you check the American Bird Conservancy's website and make sure that whatever you're considering is bird friendly. So you do need to do your research. You can talk to the people at the American Bird Conservancy. They are more than happy to help anybody who is trying to figure out what is the best thing for them to do. Of course, be skeptical, because like they say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If somebody tells you that their product is 100% effective at preventing bird window collisions, I would be very skeptical of that. So we can all do our little part to help by making our windows more bird friendly, placing our bird feeders where they need to be placed. And Cooper is going to talk to us now about a Salt Lake project, the Salt Lake Avian Collision Survey. And even though this is a Salt Lake project, I believe, and I don't know, Gene and Cooper can correct me on this, but having been involved with it, I would say that this project could be replicated most anywhere. And we certainly, again, I'm speaking for Gene and Cooper, we certainly would be happy to help you if you want to undertake a project like this. So I'll turn it over to Cooper. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Share my screen here. All right, you guys should all see that, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, seeing some nods. Okay, great. Yeah, so hello, everyone. My name is Cooper Farr. Again, I'm the Director of Conservation at Tracy Aviary, as well as a member of Great Salt Lake Audubon. And I am just going to share quickly about this project that Tracy Aviary started a number of years ago called the Salt Lake Avian Collision Survey, or SLACS for short. And Tracy Aviary, just to give you some background, so we are an aviary. We are, a bird zoo, and conservation is a really big part of our mission. And so we work on a lot of local conservation issues, bird and habitat conservation in our area with the help of community scientists, also known as citizen scientists. And this project is an example of that. And this project, SLACS, really examines sort of an unfortunate interaction that happens between light pollution and bird window collisions. So a majority of the birds that migrate at night, and they evolved to migrate and have darkness below them, and lights, the stars and moon and setting sun sort of above them. And so having a lot of artificial lights at night while these birds are migrating can actually really disorient them and draw them down into really bright areas like our cities. And once birds are down inside these bright areas, they are, sort of trapped in this really urban environment, this place that has a lot of glass, a lot of windows that they can then collide with. And so this program we actually started in partnership with a local chapter of the International Dark Sky Association, which works on light pollution related issues. And since then we have a number of other partners, including Great Salt Lake Audubon, that sort of work on this issue with us. But so back in 2016, this is when the International Dark Sky Association sort of approached the aviary with this idea to do a project focused on this issue. And I was really interested in this. I really wanted to do sort of a really urban project working on, a city-related conservation issue with birds. And so I sort of looked into it, and this was kind of the location of all of the really major bird building or bird window collision studies that were out there at that time. And you can see there's a lot going on in the eastern part of the US, and then some studies kind of on the west coast, but really here in the Intermountain West, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And so there's kind of this data gap where we're not quite sure how this issue was playing out in our area. So it seemed like a great thing for us to get involved with. Since then, there are a number of other studies that are going on. So there's lots more information that we are finding in our area as well. But back then, we were definitely the first ones in Salt Lake to kind of do a study about this. And Salt Lake happens to be the brightest part of Utah. And we're also a place that birds sort of migrate through this area. And we also certainly have lots and lots of windows, lots and lots of glass in our area. So we basically turned this into a community science project. So we have 20 city blocks right in the middle of downtown Salt Lake City that we selected for this project. And we selected these city blocks not because this is the only place, in the city that birds would be colliding with windows. That is certainly not true. As Jean mentioned, birds collide, with residential windows, low commercial buildings, all sorts of things. But these city blocks are accessible to the public. People can sort of walk on the public right-of-ways and go and do these surveys. And so each spring and fall during the migration season, we train a group of volunteers to go out and do early morning surveys, to go just walk each of these blocks, walk around every single building within these blocks and see if they can find any birds that have collided with buildings there. And just to share some results. So far, we've had 39 community scientist volunteers join us for this project over the years since we officially started in 2017, including Linda and Jean. So thank you guys for participating in the project. We've done 650 surveys, so lots and lots of surveys out there. And we have indeed, found collisions in this area, which should be unsurprising to all of you if you've been paying attention to the presentation, because it happens. It's definitely something that happens. So so far we've had 147 collisions that we've documented of 38 different species of birds. And I guess for those of you who are interested in the species that I have up here, I can just name them quickly. So up at the top, this is a western tanager, a McGillivray's warbler, orange-crowned warbler. This is an American coot, the only one that we have found, but it was a window collision as well. Brewer sparrow, lazuli bunting, mountain chickadee, and Wilson's warbler there. And so I just wanted to say, as we're looking at these results, this is a pretty small sample of the total number of collisions that happen in this area. We definitely don't have people out there every single day, doing these surveys. And then we know from other of these studies that we're probably finding fewer than 40% of the birds that are colliding with windows in the area. Cleaning crews can pick them up, or like rats and other critters can kind of drag them away. So this is just a sample, but it certainly gives us more information about what is going on in this area. And to break down our results a little differently, so we see that our collision rates vary by season and by year. So I have each year with a different color on this graph, and then broken into our spring surveys and our fall surveys. And for most years, you can see spring collision rates are relatively low, and then we have a big jump in the fall. And that happened for every year that we've surveyed other than 2019. And I don't know what happened in 2019, but it was different for some reason. But this difference, the higher number in the fall, sort of makes sense because we have kind of more birds migrating, more birds moving in the fall than in the spring, because all of the birds that were born that year are going to make that migration. We also have found, this is sort of splitting these results into kind of family groups, that we find sparrows, warblers, hummingbirds, and tanagers most often as collision victims. And so those groups, so sparrows are blue, warblers green, hummingbirds this kind of light blue teal color. So you can definitely see, especially in kind of our fall seasons, that those types of birds really dominate the collisions that we find. But we definitely have a mix here, and it varies from season to season. And then something that we are also interested in is identifying the really vulnerable species to collisions, and to collisions during this time, during the migration season. And this is something that more and more collision studies are doing, is sort of calculating a species vulnerability based on how many individuals of that species you're finding as a collision victim, kind of in relation to kind of the total population size of that species in the area. So if you have, you find a few of a certain species that are, in these collisions, but the population size is really small, that makes up a big proportion of those birds. And so that's important to know about. So right here, I just have our species that we're finding most often. Unfortunately, western tanager is up there at the top. It's always sad to see a tanager, but you can see some of those other birds. And then we did this vulnerability analysis, and we see kind of those switch a little bit based on, sort of the relative numbers compared to the populations. And so it seems like, at least in our area, calliope hummingbirds are really vulnerable to collisions, and we don't have a whole lot of them. So yeah, so that's sort of unfortunate. And you can see some of those other birds that that seem to be a little more vulnerable, specifically in our area. We also have been measuring building characteristics. So every time that we find a collision at a certain building, we'll go out and take measurements of that building. And then we are taking measurements of an equal number of sort of random buildings within the study area. So we can sort of do some comparisons and see, within this study area, which are the more dangerous, buildings out there. And so this is generally what we're finding. This analysis was from a few years ago, but it kind of holds true even with our more recent years. So the collision sites where birds are colliding with windows, they tend to be taller than, the random sites. They tend to have more glass surface area, unsurprisingly. The glass seems to be a bit more reflective. They also have more windows that are lighted at night, so there does seem to be that factor where birds are being drawn to the area or sort of disoriented by those lighted windows. And then they also had more trees kind of really close to the building facade, to the side of the building or to the windows, which I think that could be that those trees are reflecting in the glass, so the birds are seeing that as habitat that they can fly to, or those trees are just kind of the only sort of habitat in this really urban, impervious surface type environment. So the birds are sort of there and then end up colliding with the windows while they are there. And so it's a sad study to be a part of, certainly, but we're trying to take this information and find some solutions. And so one of the things that people can do to try and decrease this problem, specifically during migration, is to turn out your lights at night and decrease the light pollution that's in the area so we don't draw those migratory birds down into the city. And so we started this Lights Out program. There are many of these programs across the world, basically encouraging everyone to turn out lights at night, between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And that can really help not draw those birds in. We also have yard signs that we pass out to folks who participate in that program. And then, of course, a really important solution is just to make your window safer so that, the birds, either the migratory birds or the ones that are in the city, won't, collide with those windows. So this is a very sort of specific study and program, within the Salt Lake area, downtown area. But yeah, as Linda said, it certainly can be replicated in many different places. And I'm happy to talk to anyone if you want to start documenting bird window collisions in your area. I put the website there if you want to read more about it. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I will stop sharing. We'll go back to the other presentation.
Looks like we have some questions in the chat. Let me see. The first one is, how far apart should the parachute cord be? It should be no more than 4 inches apart. And then feeder placement, I think we talked about that. Dennis, let us know if we didn't answer your question. And then we had I assume you removed the bird tape before washing the windows. No, you don't need to remove it. You can leave it on the windows. Let's see, I purchased decals which adhere to the window with water and are in the shape of birds and supposedly more visible to birds because they reflect UV light. What is your opinion of these? I don't know. I would refer you to the American Bird Conservancy. I would find out whatever the brand of the decals are, and you can go on to the American Bird Conservancy website. The link is in. Oh, you don't have the presentation. Well, we can get that to you.
Linda, it's Bernie. The premier producer of those is Window Alert, who also, as you pointed out, does the commercial work and industrial work.
It's probably, yeah, I don't know how it's rated, but it is probably approved. And I would just say, just contact the American Bird Conservancy and they can tell you.
Yeah, I've used them and they seem to work really well if you put them close enough together. by
Yes,
your
that's the
like
secret,
world.
is
Yeah.
putting them close enough together. One big black bird won't help.
No.
Sorry. Besides that, those big black birds are kind of distracting to people. With what we know about the night sky initiatives helping bird populations, why have local subdivisions been removing night skies? Oh, I can't answer this, but maybe Bernie can. Why have local subdivisions been removing night sky stipulations from their CCNRs?
Haven't got a clue.
Somehow I suspect it's related to cost.
Cost or perceived safety. You know, people can feel really unsafe when it's dark at night. That's the sort of biggest pushback that I get when I talk about the dark sky issue. But there's actually evidence that it's not just the presence of lighting that makes things safer. It's actually, you know, good, effective lighting that is lighting where you want it to go and isn't, you know, glaring everywhere else. But I could talk about that a long time. But anyways.
Well, you know, in our HOA, it's not in our CCNRs, but they do want us to keep our lights on. But during migration, I turn them off. There's plenty of light around. We're right next to the freeway. There's lights that shine down from the freeway, and there's a park next to us with huge lights. So there's plenty of lights. But I don't know. We can probably get some information. I did see a presentation. It was done by, well, the guy's name is Bob King, but he goes by Astro Bob because he's into astronomy and stuff. But he did a light pollution study in Duluth, Minnesota, and he did a presentation on it, and it was dramatic, the difference. They took one street and they changed out the lighting, and it was unbelievable, the difference in the light pollution. But you could still see perfectly well where you were going and that sort of thing. So I can send that to Bernie, and if anybody's interested, you can look at that. But I can't answer the question about your CCNRs. maybe Cooper has some information she can send to Bernie that would.
The city of Flagstaff has a very aggressive and effective lights down program. And they've been very good about it because they're worried about light pollution over the Grand Canyon. And Sam Singer from Wyoming Stargazing did do a program for us about 2, maybe 3 years ago on the effect of light pollution on birds, because he's an astronomy buff. Well, he's a pro. But so there's a lot to be said. We happen to live next to the Wilson Elementary School, and it's well lit at night. Nothing's going on, I can assure you. We can see everything.
We have one more question here. How does the Acopian curtain work? Well, anything that puts those lines on your window, whether it's moving or not, the birds can see that, and it breaks up what appears to be their habitat. And so they're going to tend to move away from that. If anybody else has questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask us, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Well, Linda, let me go ahead and wrap up then.
Okay.
Because we do have a slide that has a lot of the links for people. So anyway, what we talked about is, you know, that birds are important to us, that window collisions are a problem with the solution, you know, that unfortunately birds can't see windows and therefore collide with them, and that we can make our windows visible by using some of these products, and encourage you to get involved locally and see. So we can all make a difference. I looked this up. There are about 350 bird species here in Utah, and Wyoming, you guys beat us. You have 440 species of birds that are recorded in Wyoming. So, we can make a difference and help our birds. We encourage you to share this information that we've presented with your family and friends, and let them know what the issues are and what they can do to help the birds. You can contact us for more information. And again, if you visit our Bird Window Coalition website, the Great Salt Lake Audubon Bird Window Coalition website, we do have some pictures of people who have mitigated their windows. And, we're looking to beef that up a little bit. So thank you from all of our birds for caring about them. This is our list it's a selected list of products. So it's not everything that's out there. But this is just a little bit more information from the websites about all of these people who have come up with these products. There's a great little YouTube video about how to make an Acopian curtain, something you could do in a few minutes, essentially. And then, you can Google any one of these names, American Bird Conservancy or Kaleidoscape, and you can come up with the website. So anyway, this is our contact information, and we're at 7 o'clock, but if anyone has any more questions for us, we'd be glad to answer them.
One thing I just want to hi, I'm Eva with the library. I just want to let everybody know that this has been recorded. So if you wanted to show this whole recording and presentation that Jean, Linda, and Cooper did for us this evening will be available on the library's YouTube channel and also on our website.
And I'll send the link out to the Bird Club list. And I want everybody to take a quick look at Renee's screen. She's got the Acopian chords.
Oh, cool. Live demo. What more could we ask?
Yeah, she had to go, I'm sure she had to go grab a fan to make them wave back and forth like that. It's never windy in Teton Valley.
Oh, it's very windy here right now. So we have actually heard from people who have used the parachute cord for their Acopian curtains, and you might want to allow for a little shrinkage. They claim that after a year or two that the cord will shrink, so you might want to add an extra 4 inches or so, to allow for that shrinkage.
You can always hang fishing lures on them, right, Joe?
There you go.
Well, I want to thank you all. This is a great program. Okay. Somebody speak up.
Oh, I had a question. Oh, yeah, sorry. I know you're ending. I have a question for you. Teton County is going through a tremendous construction boom. And, I was thinking about, my place, which is small, that we have screens over all of our windows, and it seems to blur. And I've never had a bird strike on our window. So I was wondering, is this an appropriate time with the big construction boom of really big homes to have a write-in to Teton County commissioners to address some of the big picture windows that these huge homes come in with? I guess I don't actually know whether it's an issue in Teton County.
Mary Lee, can I put you on the spot?
Center. What?
Okay.
So I do think that this is that would be a great time, because to retrofit your windows is really quite expensive. So if you are thinking about your windows ahead of time and installing them initially, then that can be helpful. But if you need statistics to say, well, this is a problem, then, doing something like a Slack survey, like Cooper is doing with the Tracy Aviary, you can document that there are issues. And getting legislation passed can be challenging.
Yeah.
I think that a public information campaign would be far more effective than trying to approach the county commission. I mean, they've got gigantic headaches that they're dealing with pretty much all the time. And I think our community members are really receptive to anything that's conservation oriented, especially anything that would save animals. And everybody, I mean, doesn't everybody love birds? I think.
My mother didn't, but that was a whole thing with her. Pigeons getting down the chimney and getting into the house. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my that's my 2 bits.
Thanks, Mary Lee. I appreciate it. Well, this is great. And somebody else, Kay?
Sorry, just me again, Kay again. One thing that I know from the Raptor Center is there have been some significant strikes with large raptors on these huge picture windows. And, I recognize that it's always great to have data that's local, but given that we're in a construction period now, the collection period would be way too late. So I guess I was just wondering if there's something we could do while people are in the zoning, given South Park zoning for large homes, and whether there's enough data just in the public record showing that it's an issue that needs to be addressed by the homeowners that are building large windows. And I would take it that small windows are maybe not as big, but we do get huge picture windows in large homes.
Renee, have you got something to say about that? Yeah.
I do actually. Thank you, Bernie. I was actually going to say, Kay, I think your line of thinking is quite brilliant. And I know there are amendments to the LDRs going through planning right now, as Francis has been involved in 1 or 2 of these also. I don't know if P&Z would be open to adding an LDR about windows, but sure as heck is worth asking and reaching out. And I'd be happy to work with folks on this call, Bernie, whoever that might be. And I have a connection, Roby Hurley, in planning, who's, knows the language of planning, which I don't speak, but I think this is a great time to approach the county about putting down some regulations. And then also somebody else mentioned a public education campaign. Those things can go hand in hand. They're both brilliant ideas.
I have one question before we wrap up, Eva, if you just give me a sec.
Sure.
I know there are no standards in the US for this, but do you think that there's a possibility to get bird-friendly windows incorporated into commercial LEED standards?
You can get points for it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is that you don't get enough points probably to make it a real thing for them to do.
Okay.
But I think a lot, I can't remember who said, the public, I think it might've been, I'm not sure who it was, so I won't say, but the public awareness, I think a lot of people they don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. I mean, I know I've had birds hit windows and actually the size of the window isn't necessarily, the bigger the window, the more you get strikes. My brother has a fairly small window, and it's the only window in the house that they get strikes on. And it's because you can see through the house.
Yeah,
So they're
yeah,
seeing
see right
through to
through.
the other side where there's a big tree, and they think that that's where they want to go. But
Eva,
I think,
I know you want to get in, but sorry, Eva.
Oh, no,
Okay.
she can continue. I'm sorry.
But I think that it's more a public awareness thing. So, and, you know, anything we can do to help with that, we're happy to help. I don't know, you know, I haven't lived in Jackson for a long time, but I know about the building. But and we have one here too. I mean, I just cringe every day when I see all these solid glass buildings going up and thinking, gee, I wonder what kind of glass that is.
And-
No.
Well, as you know, Linda, in Jackson, the
and I think
the buildings with the most
tried.
windows are likely to be actually public buildings, and in addition to the large homes that are going up, but
Mhm.
public spaces tend to have the larger windows, but as of yet, we don't have any skyscrapers. But
You don't need to have skyscrapers.
I know.
But I think there are a lot of people like me who have tried a lot of different ways to mitigate that don't work. So being able to share information with that actually will work for people, I think let's start with the people who are trying already and need good information to be successful.
I would suggest that one of the things that works is working with some of our, you know, Bird Club members. Well, we don't technically have members because technically we don't really exist. But, you know, some of them are large homeowners, and they would be very receptive to this kind of approach and be able to say, at least within their HOAs, hey, I did this, it was cheap and it worked. So we can work on some of that. Anybody else got anything burning?
I have one little comment that I was thinking, you know, when you were saying trying to collect data for birds that have been hit in Teton County, when they built the visitor center in Teton National Park, that was probably a really good example. And I bet there's good data that they have collected because of that new visitor center and what they did to mitigate it. That could be information, again, to share in that when you're sharing building a new building in Teton County, Wyoming.
That's an interesting idea, because those of you who are aware, and I think most of us are, of the visitor center in Moose, it's got a fabulous view of the Teton Range, and it's got glass from here to there. And maybe we can get them to look at that a little bit. They haven't been overly amenable to citizen science, but we might be able to work on it. Good suggestion. Thanks, Eva. You can come back anytime.
I love it. People.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so
Tina.
much for this opportunity to present to you all. And, you know, good luck with your efforts too up there.
Yeah, I'm very
We'll
much
keep in touch.
and Linda and Cooper for taking the time out to present this. This is excellent. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, one last thing. Jack Hogan had reminded me, and somebody else had asked at the beginning, for those of you who weren't on at the beginning, what do we do about feeders? And right now, the advice coming, I think, out of Idaho and I think out of Utah is you can put your feeders up, but clean them regularly. And I think that's probably a good move. And I did say in the beginning that because it's a bacterial infection, the wooden feeders are much more dangerous to birds than the plastic and metal feeders. And I know we all would like to use natural products wherever possible, but it's very, very hard to thoroughly clean a wooden feeder. So I would maybe recommend not putting those back out. But for your hummingbird feeders, I'm sure you will clean them regularly inside anyway, so clean them on the outside. That's all. Thanks, everybody. It's great to see you all as
Thank you.
usual.
Thank you, guys.
All righty. Bye
Good
now.
night.
Bye.
Good night.